Hey folks, my name is Matt Klaskowski, Photoshop guy for the NAPP, and we're going to look at the cloning and healing tools inside of Photoshop CS4 because we now get a live preview as our brush. So instead of the guesswork we used to have to do about wondering what it was going to look like, what we were cloning with, now when you sample with your clone tool or you sample with your healing brush, your cursor will actually show a live preview of what you're about to paint with, and it takes all the guesswork out of it. Let's take a look. This is one of those tiny little settings that is quickly going to become kind of second nature for you when it comes to using CS4. It's going to be one of those things where you're not going to be able to go back to an earlier version of Photoshop and do cloning and healing without this. It's going to be very difficult because it has been for me, and to me it's the way cloning should be. The best thing I can do is let me just show you why it's important here. I'm going to go to this portion of the house, and let's say we want to remove this wire from up here. All right, I'm going to go over and select my clone stamp tool, and I'm going to option click on the Mac, alt click on the PC to select an area that we want to pull as a source. All right, and then what I'll do now is move it over, and I'll start to paint with the clone stamp tool, and I'll try to line up the pattern, but you can see I didn't do a really good job of lining that pattern up, and that's because you're pretty much flying blind. All right, you don't have any real way of telling what you're painting with. Well, there's now an overlay with the brush, and you can get to it. It's right up in the clone source panel, which has a shortcut button with the clone stamp tool right up at the top here. All right, and this panel's not new, and we did get an overlay with CS3, but the overlay was really kind of funky. It showed you an entire overlay of the image, and it wasn't really, sometimes it got in the way more than it helped. But now I'm going to turn on Show Overlay, and it should be on by default. I just turned it off for a second here. And you'll notice that the clipped option is on. And watch what this does. I'm going to come down here, and I'm going to sample from this area. And then I'm going to move my cursor. And you see my cursor as I move it over the black, you can see it easier. See how it shows me a preview of what I'm about to paint with? So now I can line that pattern up and then click and start to paint. And now I don't have to worry about the pattern starting to get off because I know that I lined it up right the first time. So every time that I click and I paint with that clone stamp tool, it's going to have the right pattern. And you get the same functionality over here with the healing brush tool. And you can see here, I've already got my brush. If I sample from something, you can see how I move it around, and it's showing me a preview as well. Okay, and you can always get to that preview if for some reason it gets turned off. Just go up to your clone source panel and just turn on that show overlay option, and it's going to show you inside your cursor a preview of what you're about to paint with. So as you can see, we no longer have the trial and error situation that we used to have when it comes to cloning and healing. Now your brush actually shows you exactly what you're going to be working with. I'm Matt Klaskowski. We'll talk to you again soon.